Okay, hi Zach. Today we are going to do lesson number 11 for you. This one is super fun. It starts on page 51 if you want to follow along, and it goes over reciprocal and multiplicative inverse. And then it also does a little review of order of operations and identifying multiplication and addition. So it'll be kind of fun. So I hope you enjoy it. Okay.
The order of operations.
Okay, we'll see ya. Have fun. Okay, hi Zach. We're doing lesson 11 today, and it's on page 51 if you want to follow along. Okay, and this lesson talks about reciprocals. That's the first thing that it kind of goes over. And a reciprocal is basically I'll explain it in the form of fractions first. So if you take a fraction and you flip it upside down, then that fraction is the reciprocal of the other fraction. Okay, so it's basically an inverted form of another fraction is a different way to say that. So let's go over some of these examples, and I think you'll get it. Okay, so 2 over 3 is the reciprocal of, and I'm going to write 3 over 2, because obviously if you just take this fraction and flip it upside down, you're going to end up with that. Okay, let's do another one. 3 over 2 is the reciprocal of 2 over 3, because we just flipped it. And look at these are the same as the numbers right above it, right? So it's just making the point that the reciprocal is the inverted form of that fraction, and then the inverted form of your answer is going to be the original fraction that you started with. Okay, let's do another one. Negative 4 over 11 is the reciprocal of negative 11 over 4. And it doesn't matter really where you put the negative here, because let me just erase it there and I'll show you. You can put a negative here in front of the whole thing, or you can put it in front of either the numerator or the denominator. It doesn't matter, because as long as you have one negative, that makes that whole number negative. Okay, so those are reciprocals, and then it makes the point again, negative 11 over 4 is the reciprocal of, and it's going to be negative 4 over 11. Okay, perfect. Now, what is the only real number that doesn't have a reciprocal? So it goes on to make the point here that basically you can take any number like 8 and think of it as a fraction, because it's going to be 8 over 1. And then the reciprocal of that is going to be 1 over 8. But there is a number that you can't do that to, right? And that number is, I'm going to make it red so you know, because I think that you already know it, 0. Why? Because we just learned in the previous chapter that this is the same as like 0 over 1. But if you take the reciprocal of that, it's going to be 1 over 0. And this is a big no-no, because it's meaningless. So whenever you divide by 0, 1 over 0, you get undefined and is basically meaningless. So the only number that doesn't have a reciprocal is 0. Okay, so the definition of a reciprocal, or another name for it, is the multiplicative inverse. Yeah, I know. This is why we call it a reciprocal, because at least reciprocal is slightly better than multiplicative inverse. I mean, say that 10 times fast. That is pretty tricky. So the rule here is, for any non-zero real number, notice it said non-zero because we're not going to include 0 there. For any non-zero real number, a, so they're basically pointing out the number, they're just going to call it a with that symbol, okay? The reciprocal, or the multiplicative inverse of the number, is 1 over a. All right, I think you get that. And then what happens if you multiply a number by its reciprocal? Well, let's try it. So let's say you have 8 over 1, and then the reciprocal of that is 1 over 8. and you multiply, the answer that you get is going to be 1. And turns out that that's the answer every time you get the answer to the product of a number times its reciprocal. A number times its reciprocal is always going to be 1. A number times its multiplicative inverse is always going to be 1. So let's do some examples to make sure. Here, we'll start with 4, okay, times 1 over 4. So those are reciprocals, and the answer that you get is 1. What about negative 5 times its reciprocal, which is 1 over negative 5? It's also going to be 1, and it's going to be positive 1 because you multiplied a negative by a negative. Okay, how about this one down below? We started with negative 1 over 13, and its reciprocal is just going to be negative 13 because it's kind of like negative 13 over 1, right? And when you multiply those out, you get 1 as your answer, and it's a positive 1 because you're multiplying a negative times a negative. Okay, very good. Then the next section that it goes over, it kind of changes topics here. So we're moving on to 11b, which is on page 52. And it wants you to figure out what is the answer of this. And it's 4 plus 3 times 2. And basically this is a review of order of operations, which I know that you have already done that. And so order of operations basically just says, do the multiplication first. So we're going to do this part first. And underneath, if I were to simplify, it would be 4 plus, and I know that 3 times 2 is 6, so I'm going to put a 6 there, and the answer is going to be 10. If you had not done it this way, if you did the 4 plus 3 first, then you get 7 times 2, which is 14. So you get a different answer. You get something different than this. So that's why you have to do it that same way every time. Do multiplication first. And then it tells you to do addition. But it really doesn't matter after that. If you do multiplication and division first, then you can follow that up with addition and subtraction, and then you will get the same number. So let's do this problem. This is, let's see. Oh, this is just in the middle of page 52. And it wants us to figure out the answer to this. So which parts of this are we going to do first? I'm going to highlight the parts that we do first, okay? So this is going to be multiplication. So we're going to do that first. And then I'm looking for more multiplications. Here's another one. We're going to do that first. And then here's one right there at the end. So if I do that and I simplify down below, then 4 times 3 is 12. And then everything else, I'm just going to bring it down. Plus 5, minus 6, plus 4, minus what? Well, minus 3 times 5, which is 15. Plus 6 minus 8, because that's this symbol, right? Okay. And then you can just go left to right. And if you do that left to right, then it's easy. You just get -2 for a total answer there. What they did in the book is they went ahead and did all the addition problems after that. So right here, and then this one. But like I said, you don't need to because you will get the same answer every time. And you just walked in and you want to know if you can go for a walk? Yes, you're going to walk your friends home from school. Yes, this is going to be in one of your lessons. So when this happens, hi, Zach. Say hi.
Hello, future self.
That's weird. You're talking to your future self. Okay, let's move on to example 11.1. This is down at the bottom of page 52, and it wants us to simplify this problem. So I'm going to highlight the multiplication first so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to do that first, and I'm going to do this first, okay? And then that makes it easier. 4 times 3 is 12. Everything else I'm going to bring it down. Plus 2 plus. And this simplifies to -15. Okay? And then you can just do left to right. So 12 plus 2 is 14 plus a negative 15. That's kind of saying 14 minus 15, and you get negative 1 for your answer there. All right, what about 11.2? I'm going to look for the multiplication and do those first. So here's 1. Okay, and then here's 1. If there were any divisions in here, I would highlight those 2. Okay, so negative 5 times 2 is going to be negative 10 minus 3 plus, and then 6 times 3 is going to be 18. So negative 10 minus 3 is negative 13 plus 18. So the difference between those numbers is 5, and it's going to end up being positive 5 because, well, you know that already because you've been doing that up to now. All right, let's do example 11.3. I know I'm going through this fast, but it's because I think that you know how to do these already. So if you have any questions about it, just ask me. So I've highlighted all the multiplication parts of this problem now, and I'm going to simplify down below. 4 times 3 is 12. I'm going to bring down that minus sign and do 2 times 5, which is 10, plus 6 minus, and then 5 times 2 is 10. And if you do all of that, you get just left to right, your answer is going to be negative 2. Yeah, you can walk your friends home, Zach.
They also want to know if I can go to one of their houses for a little bit.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Sorry, future self, for bugging.
Okay, now we are on 11.C, which is at the top of page 53. And this part says, this is why I put this guy here. Beginner's luck. And it's because it says, sometimes beginners have a hard time picking out the multiplication. So right here, it's written in a way that's a little different than the problems we've been doing. So it makes it a little trickier to figure out where is the multiplication. There's lots of minus signs. It's a little hard. And basically what they say to do is they say, if there's no plus or minus sign between symbols, then you multiply. So there's no plus or minus sign between these two numbers. So that's going to be multiplication. And here, it's a little tricky the way they explained it because there is that negative sign, but that doesn't mean to subtract. That means to multiply by a negative number. So there's no other symbol in between those two numbers, so that means we're going to multiply. If this is hard for you, then please let me know because I will find a different way to explain it to you, and then we'll go over it. But since you've been getting 100% on your math, I'm not going to explain it any further for now. So I'm just going to simplify. 4 minus 15 is there, minus, and then 7 times 6. What's 7 times 6, Danny?
7 times 6 is 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 42.
42. So it's 42, but because of this minus sign or that negative sign, it's going to be a negative number. Okay. And then I'm going to subtract out, the product here, which is 4 times negative 5. 4 times 5 is 20, but it's going to be negative 20 because of that negative number. And so then you are just going to solve this problem. So this one should be a little bit easier, except for all of these negatives make it a little tricky. So if I simplify it even further, you can do 4 minus 15, and then minus a negative 42 is the same as plus 42. And then minus a negative 20 is the same as plus 20. So then just go left to right, and you're going to get 51. So try it out, see if you get that answer, and see if you understand it. Okay, this lesson is complete now, and good luck with your homework. Okay, Zach, that was the end of your lesson for lesson 11. I hope you really enjoyed that. That was super fun for me. Okay, now we are going to do your practice problems. They start right here on page 53. Don't forget to do these little practice problems, and then you have the problem set after that, and it goes to the next page, and there's some review included in there. So good luck doing your math homework and have a good time. Keep your room clean. Make sure that you include units in your answers, because last time I did dock you a half a point because you got the right number, but you didn't include units. And as you know, that the units are a big part of the answer. Alrighty. Have fun doing your math. Love ya. Bye.